with that, I'd like to hand it off to Jordan. He's going to go over the Quick Start Guide and give you an example of how to access data in MIDRC.
Thanks, Chris, and hi, everyone. As a new user, how would you sort of approach the website and get started in exploring the data that we have and selecting a cohort and actually downloading it? So as I think Dr. Geiger and Chris pointed out, you can reach this landing page from the MIDRC main website by launching the data access portal, or just going to data.midric.org. So Chris pointed out the Quick Start Guide up here in the top bar, which I'll now select. I open this. You can see we pull up this Quick Start Guide for actually exploring the website or the data portal and accessing data. So now I will kind of walk you through this process. And so the first thing that you have to do is create an account and log in. I won't actually walk through this step because I've already done this, but you can log in with your credentials using your InCommon ID or your ORCID ID, which are both very easy to do. And so the next step is to first create an API key for your account profile. So if I go back to the data portal, I can select my profile up here in the top right corner. You can see I'm logged in with my institution ID. And if I view my profile, you can see, actually I'm going to delete this API key really quickly. You can see this button, Create API Key. You can see it says I don't currently have an API key, that I need to please create one. And there's nothing listed here under the API key section. So I will create an API key. And you can see it says the secret is only displayed one time. Please save it. So I will download this JSON file. You can see it's downloaded. And now I have this API key listed here. You can see it expires in just under a month. Okay. Let me pull this down so that I can go back to the Quick Start Guide. Okay, so you can get more details about those API keys by looking at the Gen 3 resources that Chris pointed out earlier. So the next step is to install the Gen 3 client app. And so to download the data, you will need to use this free Gen 3 client application, which is available for download for different operating systems. You can download at this website, which I'll now go to. And I'm currently running on a Windows system, so I'll download the Windows version. And then if I jump back to the Quick Start Guide, says that the next step is to extract the zip file to a directory of my choice on my local computer, and there are some additional instructions that you might potentially need to follow if you're a Mac user. So I will go to my downloads file or folder where you can see the API key credentials JSON file that I just downloaded, as well as the Gen 3 client app in the zip file. So I will extract this file here to my downloads folder. You can see that new file folder right here, which is just opened, and the Gen 3 client app within it. Okay, so the next step is to link my API key to the Gen 3 client app. So on my local computer, you need to open a command line app and navigate to the Gen 3 client app directory. So I have this command line open. We'll go to downloads and the Gen 3 client app location where I just downloaded it. And I need to type in this command, so Gen 3 client, move my mouse, figure. Then the credential that I need to list is the location of the JSON file that I just downloaded. So that is one path up. And this may change based on where you've decided to save the Gen 3 client app and the credentials file. The API endpoint. if I run this command, you'll see that this line says the profile MIDRC has been configured successfully. So we've followed the instructions, pretty straightforward so far. So if I go back to the quick start guide, you can see these steps 1 through 4 follow this sort of heading, steps for initial setup that only need to be completed once per user. You may need to repeat these steps if you need to create a new API key for some reason, like if your API key is expired. But yeah, this is not something that you need to repeat every time you download data. This is only to be performed one time. Now, the following steps need to be completed for each time that you want to download data. So I'll go back to the exploration tool to actually create a cohort. So if I go here, back to the data portal, I will use the sort of point and click app that Chris highlighted earlier. I won't be using the query approach, but you can see it's very, very easy and straightforward to select a cohort and sort of filter by different features of the cases. And I've used this data portal to download patients myself for research, and it's very easy and user-friendly process. So I've sort of pre-selected a cohort that is a small amount of cases so that it's so that I can actually demonstrate a download within a very quick, reasonable amount of time. So I'm going to pretend that I'm interested in a cohort of patients who are exactly 60 years old and who are Asian. So that you can see the data portal has now sort of filtered through the data and identified that there are 3 cases that meet these criteria. And you can see information about these 3 cases in this small table here. You can scroll through the table to sort of see, where the cases came from, right? I suppose I should say what data set they belong to, and the number of imaging studies for each patient. So if I go back to the quick start guide, you can now see so that has allowed me, or through this process, I've selected my patient cohort following step 5. Step 6 is to download the manifest file for my cohort. So I will go back to the data portal, and actually before I download this file manifest, I'll first download the case metadata, which is, I'll download it as a CSV file. If I open this, you can basically see that same table that I just presented on the data portal, except in a way that you can interact with. Okay, so if I go back to the data portal, I will now download the file manifest, which was the next step in the quick start guide. So I've downloaded it, and you may be prompted by your web browser to save this manifest file. I was not prompted, but you may be. Okay, the final step is to use the manifest file with the Gen 3 client app to actually download the data for your cohort. So on your local machine, you need to open a command line app and go to the location of the Gen 3 client, which we've already done. Then you need to run this command. So I'll now type it out. The manifest is the location of the file that I just downloaded, which is, let me make sure I get this name right. MIDRC case manifest. Okay. And then the final step is where you want to download the data. So I will just download it to basically where to my current location. I'll actually provide a full path for this one to be clear. So now the client has noticed that there is potential to have duplicated files if you've already done this download process before. I've not done that, and there are no duplicate files, so I will proceed without any other changes. You can see the download process has now begun, and since I pre-selected that sort of small cohort. Should be a very quick process. Yes, you can see that there were 3 DICOM files downloaded. And now I can actually navigate to that folder, and you can see those 3 DICOM files that have been successfully downloaded.